This is huge. Stripe identity.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you get verified before
Scott Galloway did a whole.
And here we are. Welcome to Project 13.5. I am so excited to be here with two incredible guests. Today we are going to be speaking with Raj Kotecha and Vik
Morjaria.
I'm so sorry. I just lost my train of thought here. And welcome to the world of live. This is what happens when we go live, and we love it. That's part of the fun. We're going to be talking about PR branding. Project 13.5 at Dubai English Speaking College is all about empowering our young graduates with information about media, technology, and also personal branding is our focus. We're going to be discussing the personal branding that Raj and his team are using over at Creative Media Agency, but we also want to learn a little bit more about how branding affects both Raj and Vik on a personal level, and then how that translates into the organization. Welcome, Raj. Welcome, Vik. It's so great to have you both with me today.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you so much for having us. Always fun with you.
Super fun to be here. So I know we've met before, Raj. We've already had a spotlight interview with you. Our students raved about you. They're still talking about everything that you do. But maybe you can reintroduce yourself, and then Vik, working alongside Raj as the director of operations, maybe you can kind of complement and supplement to that introduction.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thanks very much. Always fun. As I mentioned, my name is Raj Kotecha. I'm the CEO of the Creative Content Agency. We are a 15-year-old business that focuses on making social media and content. We today work with primarily business people and some celebrities, and we produce their social content. There's lots of different types of social content you can produce, but majority of our focus is in video, podcasting, and then a lot of behind the scenes strategy work in boardrooms, helping CEOs figure out what she or he wants to say in the public through digital methods. And that's really where we're at the moment. And we're also going into education in a big way. We're going to be taking a lot of our strategy online so that people can learn it. We're taking our agency into a direct-to-consumer model where you don't have to pay the crazy high ticket fees and consulting fees. You can just jump in with us, get the majority of the strategy online, and then get some one-on-one sessions with us to tailor that strategy.
That's incredible. I love that. And Vik, how does that translate in your role at the organization?
Sure. So I'm the director of operations at Creative Content Agency. My job is fundamentally around execution. So ensuring not only doing the actual execution of the content for our clients and for our personal brands and for our celebrity clients, but also execution along the lines of making sure that all the kind of pieces in the puzzle are put together. So if we come up with an idea, how do we take that through all the different stages of the 4 Ps that we teach to make sure that there is a cohesive plan to make sure that it gets online, gets promoted, gets distributed. But before that, make sure it gets produced in the right way, gets captured in the right way. So just kind of building the train, as it were, whilst we're moving it.
Now, I want to ask you both a question. It's kind of like the golden ticket question. How important is branding, and how important is the communication of that vision for branding when you're working together in an enterprise?
Could you clarify?
Okay. So what we have are young students and fresh graduates who think branding, is it really important? Does it really need to be a focus? And when you're working as an individual, it's easy to understand what your brand is, and it's easy to kind of align with that brand and stick to it. But when you start introducing members into your team, how important is the clarity in knowing what your brand is and translating it across the organization?
So the number one thing about personal branding, whether it's communicating it to other people that work for you or that are in your ecosystem as clients, or even people that don't know you, is that it's a shortcut. So let's say, for example, you go for a job, you want to apply for a job, and it's not uncommon that if you were to apply for a job, you might have a 3-stage interview, a 4-stage interview, a 5-stage interview. So what if I was to say to you that, okay, how about the day that you walk into interview 1, you get all the benefits of already being at interview 3? How much would that help you? How much load would that take off your mind when it comes to persuading the person that you're trying to influence to give you a job or give you a contract or give you an opportunity? How much load would that take off your life? Like in terms of stress, preparation, time, even money going back and forth to these interviews. And that's really what a personal brand does. It has a compound effect. The more you build your brand, the more that you act as a general good person who's known, liked, and trusted, and has some sort of expertise on what it is that you're either getting better at or already very good at. It saves you time. And I'll end by saying this. There's 2 chemicals in that dynamic. One is prejudice and the other is reciprocation. So we look at a word like prejudice and it sounds like a bad word. But if you split it, it's prejudge. Now, when someone prejudges you in a negative way, it's terrible. It can impact your life in a horrible way. But when someone prejudges you in a positive way, it has a magnificent effect. It creates a halo effect around you, which means that you are known, that you are liked, that you are trusted, that people know what to associate you with and what value you bring. So to have prejudice placed upon you in a positive way is incredibly important. And we'll talk about this as the rest of the conversation goes on. But as you build your brand and as you kind of give away value with what it is that you're good at or demonstrate what it is that you're learning so that other people can learn with you, people feel indebted when they see that online. And when they see that you're on a journey and you're learning something, you're trying to improve yourself, or you're sharing something about your story, you're being vulnerable, you're letting people into your world, you don't know who it is that you're going to connect with. And when they meet you in the real world, whether it be in a mall or on holiday or anywhere, or even just sending you DMs, you don't know whose life you're going to impact. And so anytime you do something nice for somebody, they're going to want to reciprocate. If I take you out for like 15 coffees, Maria, at some point you're going to be like, you have to let me buy you the next coffee. You're going to want to buy me a coffee back. And so, yeah, you create that kind of like ethical debt in people's minds. And really, if you learn nothing else today, if you understand that those 2 things exist, you can do extremely well.
And Vik, how does that resonate with you working together in the enterprise?
Working inside the business, well, it's actually the fundamental of our thesis. You know, it's really important to make sure that people really understand the value of a personal brand. Now, it's not about bragging, it's not about showing off, it's not about getting the most amount of likes or follows or comments or anything like that at all. It's actually about putting something out there that shows people who you are authentically, what you believe in, and what value you can bring to other people. So that is the absolute fundamental of kind of, for me, building a personal brand for us or for our clients.
But you've also got to remember as well that for me, I don't have to market the business. There's no creative content agency at trade fairs. We don't buy adverts on Instagram or Facebook. We don't promote anything. Like, it's 99% my personal brand or a project that I've been involved in. So it has a real impact. Like, I don't even have to have a marketing department. It's just people understand who I am, what I do, because I place effort in that. And the same amount of energy that I could put into making a flyer to kind of quote unquote promote my business, I can just put into a piece of thought leadership. Putting this clip out of us talking is going to have a much bigger and much more sustained impact on the potential people that we want to work with. Now, in our world, it's high paying agency clients. But in the world of some of the folks that are listening right now that are students, it could be a potential employer. It could be a potential internship or paid internship. And so in real terms right now, one of the best ways to build your personal brand, it's not even close, is through content. Because you make it once, you put it online. The internet does the great job of duplicating it 100 times. You don't have to go and make 1,000 flyers or photocopy 100 resumes. Once it's online, as many people need to access it, we'll access it. YouTube will make sure of that, or Instagram or TikTok. So the whole thing there is that, how can I communicate one to many? How can I make one piece of content about what it is that I'm passionate about or what I'm learning about and get people to be interested in me, and do it once and for all people? And you don't have to be an expert. This is so important for the students that are listening. Sometimes demonstrating to an employer like me, somebody like me who's got a budget to hire somebody, even if you demonstrate what you're learning and that you're not an expert at it, and you just open the video and be like, hey, listen, I'm 4.5 weeks into my video editing journey. I've just seen this transition. 3 weeks ago, I was working with this audio change, and this audio change combined with this transition creates this effect. You don't know if a guy like me who spends his whole life on the internet doesn't see that and go, wow, I've got a client tomorrow that could use that skill. Why don't I just give that kid $150 to do it for me?
Incredible. I want to go back to a couple of things I heard you both say, if that's okay. Vik, you mentioned that personal branding is something that you show. It's about who you are, what you believe in, and what value you can bring. Raj, you followed up on that, saying it's how you can communicate those things in the least amount of content as possible. So my question, and you also said that your industry, you don't need to be doing all this marketing for it.
Well, let me jump in, not with the least amount of content possible. I think that's important to jump in. Like, the problem with the least amount of content possible or doing the least amount you can do is that somebody who's hungrier will come along and do double. And so the thing is about being brutally honest. You can change what it is that you speak about when you're building your personal brand, but you do have to commit to it. Everything I'm talking to you about right now is a result of a compound effect of 20, 30 years of me building my brand, whether it was going to community events with my dad and selling raffle tickets for charity, right through to having my own parties when I was at university, or building my brand in Manchester or Toronto or London or here. It's you're able to command more in terms of a return on investing in your personal brand the longer you go. So it's a marathon.
I like that. I really like that, because I like what you just brought in, Raj, about the duration of what you've been doing in the journey, because I think sometimes young people look at people just like you and think, I want what he has. And you guys make it look seamless. You really make it look seamless. And what I heard you say is, my credibility, my journey, my reputation, the work, my past clients are the perfume that I leave in the industry, and that's what gets me the opportunities ahead of me. But when I'm a young person just joining this industry, I need to do the due diligence to make sure that I can wake up just like Raj one day and look back. So let's look out at some of the personal branding that you've come across, in the time that you've been working. And Vik, feel free to jump in there as well. What do you think are some of the things that people should be doing less of and doing more of?
So if you score cheap points, you're going to get cheap prizes. So it's very, very easy to whip your shirt off and show everybody your six pack. It's very, very easy to do something which is kind of like stunning or shocking, be on the internet, try and push somebody off their bike, do something, which is just not a good thing to do, like a bit of a dumb guy thing to do. If you try and score expensive points, like, you'll get expensive prizes. If you show that you are on the pursuit of knowledge, on the pursuit of self-improvement, on the pursuit of self-development, well, now you're focusing on fundamentals and first principles that all employers are interested in. See, as employers, we're not stupid. We've been 17. You've not been 71 or 41. I messed up my birthday there. We can use that one in 30 years time. You've not been 41. I've been 17. So I'm much more likely to respect a young girl or guy who's 17 or 18 who says, hey, I'm 3 weeks into my video making journey and I'm really trying to win. I really feel like, based on the future I see for myself now at 17, that I could have a 3 to 5 or 8 year career in this. And I just need a step up. I just need a door open for me. I'm much more likely to give you a job than for you to respond by saying that you know more than you do, because it's very easy to get discovered, or to be too general. And this is a mistake that even I made in the past, where, you ask somebody, what do you do? And they say, oh, I do everything. I design flyers, I make videos, I write copy, I public speak, I can sell, I can market, I can do accounts. It's like, sounds too thinly spread. And when you've only been on the planet 17, 18 years, you can't have built any expertise in any one of those fields. And so I guess that's my knee-jerk response to that.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you on this one, because what we see are minipreneurs, that they're like a one-man show. Young people tend to do those one-man shows. So when you are a one-man show and you don't have a budget, you have to do all those things. So when somebody asks you, what do you do? How do you respond to that? Because they are doing all those things. Shouldn't they get credit for it?
If they're doing it to build their own machine, then it's completely understandable. If you're 17, 18, 19, you go register your own business in a free zone or in Dubai, you're going to have to do all those things. You're going to have to be the CEO, the chief operations officer, the bin man, everything. You're going to have to do everything. That just goes without saying. But is that necessarily a service that you can sell? Is that something where you can actually morally take money from someone knowing that you can deliver that service back? So when it comes to building your own business, you absolutely need to do all of those things. And you don't need to be a master because it takes decades. But when it comes to you actually looking somebody in the face and saying, this is what I can offer you in exchange for time, mentorship, money, a per diem, which is like a daily fee to cover your lunch and travel, whatever it may be, you've just got to make sure that you're super clear and super honest on that. See, honesty never goes out of fashion. Whether you're 17 or whether you're 41, if you're being honest, people respect that. It emits a certain frequency, a certain energy, a certain authenticity. And when you're honest about what it is that you want and what your desires are and what it is you feel like you can bring and also what your shortcomings are, you're much more likely to connect with somebody on the other side, like myself, who's very clear on what they want.
I think it's also important to note that it's okay for people of that age and even our age to try lots of different things. So being a generalist is one thing, but trying lots of different things to figure out what you love, what you enjoy, what you're good at, what you can exchange for, money or time or whatever it may be. It's okay to try those things. But if you're demonstrating that you're on that journey, you're developing and learning as you go, and then you're effectively narrowing that down, that's also super valuable in my eyes as well.
Okay, I'm really resonating with this. Let's go back to those top three things: who you are, what you believe in, and what are your values. In speaking with personal branding experts, and I do the quotes because I do think that it's an ever evolving part of business, and I believe that most of us are making it up along the way. And I think we do look at patterns. I think we're trying to figure out how the analytics of social media really works. But if we're very honest, we're making it up as we go along based on what we think is working. And I know that we said that, it's not about the likes, it's not about the follows, but as individuals, there needs to be a measure of success. So how do we measure that success? Unfortunately, we look at those numbers of likes and follows. But how do we use who you are, what you believe in, and what your values are in creating a brand? Is it color? Is it design? What should a young person be looking at? Because I think right now we focus a lot on the aesthetic of a personal brand. What you were discussing are more the core foundations of developing that brand. But let's look at the aesthetics. How do we bring all those three elements into that one visual?
So the aesthetic that we have right now, I mean, firstly, we'll come back to the whole, unfortunately, we look at social media metrics, but the aesthetic is just the aesthetic that we've got right here. You're in a room on a laptop. We're in a room on a laptop. We've only got the natural lighting us at the moment from the sun outside. We don't necessarily need this microphone. It's $100 microphone. We could just as easily speak into this laptop. When you talk about the core, if what you're saying is valuable, that's where it all starts from that. The foundation, the bottom of the house that you can build on is when you open your mouth, do you say something which is insightful? Is it educational? Is it informative? Does it entertain the other person? If you can start with that, everything else comes afterwards. Blue background, green background, logo, jingle at the beginning. Do I wear blue glasses like Seth Godin? Do I, it doesn't matter. Do I swear like Gary Vee? How do you then season it? That comes later. But fundamentally, you have to focus on what comes out of your mouth when you open it. And what comes out of your mouth is highly a reflection of what goes into your ears. So you're not going to be able to say things that are insightful unless you are listening to insightful things and then finding a way to edge it forward, even by 0.5%. So if you're not listening to the right podcasts, if you're not reading the right books, reading the right articles, following the right kind of social media accounts, well, then you're not going to be able to take those ingredients and put them into an oven and bake something which is valuable. We talk about this in our workshops. You can't put a potato in the oven and expect a pizza to come out. You are a reflection of the things that you consume. And if you're not consuming nutritious, progressive information, then you're not going to be able to connect with somebody who desires that as a way to add value to themselves or their business.
And I think you're right. It is evolving, right? So my points around that is, you're developing your core thesis or what you believe in over a period of your whole life. So it is absolutely evolving, but thinking about what you listen to, what you learn, how you can then translate that into your own way of thinking and then putting that as valuable content or valuable talks or in an interview or whatever it may be, that's what I mean by that. Is absolutely evolving all the time, but you just got to make sure you keep feeding it the right nutrients to make sure that you can put out value.
And I'll go back to the thing as well, Maria, before we move on about the data, right? I don't want to challenge you back on this, but you have to find your validation from places outside that, right? It's very easy because it's presented to you on a plate like, hey, here's your likes today, here's your followers today, here's your comments today, here's your engagement. Well, anything that comes to you fast is not often going to be nourishing. You can have a Domino's pizza in your house in 11 minutes, I'm sure, but it's not going to be good for you. And let me explain this you said that kids want to be where I'm at, which is cool, but you got to understand, it takes a lot of time, and my data points are not social media. Look at how many followers I've got versus the influence I've got in the city. I'm not even at 4,000 Instagram followers, and all of my social media combined is probably, who knows, 7, 8, 9, 10,000. But I can pretty much have access to anything I want in terms of opportunities, conversations with people I want to have conversations with. It's almost limitless because I don't judge the numbers. I judge the value. And I think that people shouldn't look at the kind of people that are following me on Instagram. They should kind of look at the people that are WhatsApping me back when I WhatsApp them and ask them for something. And I'm 41 years old. Business is still growing. I've been active in this industry for 23 years. I still have the best strategies of any business person in the city. And I still throw the hottest parties in the city. So you can do both. Do you understand what I mean? But you can't do that by attaching yourselves to these numbers, because somebody coming up to you and wanting to take a picture with you is way more valuable than hundreds of thousands of likes because you've touched that person.
And I agree with you, but I want to bring it to what we're seeing right now. For example, the influencers. We look at how do we become by we, I mean, I'm pretending I'm 17 right now, but we're, at that age, they are looking at those numbers and wanting to be like those numbers, and they are judging themselves. They're judging what their personal brand looks like in numbers. And I think that's just common for individuals in our world, isn't it? That we need to rank against something. We've been taught that throughout our years of education. Everything is about measuring to the status quo or to some type of measurement of success. So if we look at Instagram, for example, just as one example, to get verified, you need to have a certain number, don't you? You can't just be verified. So even social media rewards the likes, the follows, and the engagement. Now, I agree with you, and I would love to see more young people feeling confident about the things that Vik was saying, in knowing what they believe in, knowing what their values are, really understanding who they are at a fundamental level. Because by having that strength of character and having that strength of confidence, you can conquer anything. And as you said, Raj, it's a marathon, it's not a race, and the journey will ever evolve. But how do we normalize that for them?
Let me tell you, students have a choice, right? Not everyone's meant to be successful. Harsh truth. So here's what happens. Have you seen that meme on the internet where two parents are holding their kids' arms and then both the parents went in opposite directions and the kids got to choose which way they go?
Yeah.
If the people listening to this podcast right now or this video stream right now trust me in the way that you say that they do, or they look up to me the way they say they do, try it my way, because it's me versus the Instagram algorithm versus when you approach a brand and you want to represent that brand on your Instagram and they go, I'm sorry, you've not got enough followers. There's two voices here. There's my voice, which is do it the long way, do it the hard way, look for validation in different places. Or you've got media, blue ticks, people sending you free sneakers. Everything exists on a spectrum. It's up to the person to decide, how do I do it? Now, here's what's interesting. You can go down the route of letting the media companies and the marketing and branding agencies and the influencer agencies and the tech algorithms, you can let them be your judge and jury. And guess what? You might also be successful. You might play that game, end up with the raw numbers that they want. But if you go to somebody with numbers, followers, likes, comments, how do you think they look at you? They look at you like a number. But if you go to somebody with engagement, empathy, connection, real impact in the world, what we call the streets, like the streets mess with me. When I go out and I'm out and about, I can't go for dinner anywhere in the city without someone coming over and saying, hey man, da, da, da. That's the real validation. Could that sell sneakers for Puma? Probably, but that's not the way that their business is set up. Their business is not set up to be like, who is it who gets the handshakes and the hugs when they go out and about? It's set up for metrics. And this also, we're getting into some real deep territory right now. It's also because some of the people that work in these agencies, like they work for these brands, are dumbos. And they want to shortcut their job. So they'd rather go with the stats than really who's making an impact. And only every so often will somebody break out and break the norm. You look at someone like Virgil, who's a designer that came up with Kanye, that came up with Off-White. Or you look at even Gary Vee getting his own sneakers. Sometimes in these brands, you've got progressive people that will take a bet on the fringe. Like there's a liquor brand in this city that took a bet on me, totally worked out for them. Genius move for them. But they had to dig in the weeds and identify that I was here and I was active doing what I'm doing. But I played the long game. So to summarize, if you're listening to this, Maria's not going to be able to give you a formula. Vic's not going to be able to give you a formula. I'm not going to be able to give you a formula. And I live it. I benefit from this every single day. You have to decide what voice you're going to listen to. Are you Android? Are you iOS? You know, I'm not saying which one's better than the other. You have to decide which route you're going to go, and then you have to commit to it.
I love it. I love how this conversation is really taking a different direction. I feel that it's a very authentic, let's be real, let's be truthful, definitely not a conversation we've had yet with another expert. Raj, Vik, just before we bring it to a wrap, top 3 need to know, or top 3 walkaways that young people should be really, really walking away and saying, okay, I'm going to ignore the distraction. I'm going to stay focused on my values, my beliefs, and who I am at the core. And I'm in it for the long run. So I'm going to take every step as it comes and really evolve. What else should they be walking away with?
So for me, it's really simple. Start making content, right? So before you start making the content, decide what content you want to make. So what is it about? What do you enjoy? What do you want to do with your life? What are your passions? What are your hobbies? Whatever it may be. Don't worry if there's 3 things or 5 things. Just think about those 3 to 5 things. Get your phone and start recording content and then put it out.
And don't look at the numbers. Just ignore the numbers.
The numbers do not mean anything at this stage. They just mean nothing. You just got to decide why you're putting out the content. Is it for your own self-improvement? Is it because you want to, put your journey out there, put your development out there and get feedback and maybe improve even more? Is it because you want to build a personal brand over the long term? Is it because you're just trying to figure out what you want to do in public, in front of people? It could be anything. It could be a myriad of different reasons. But the main thing right now is just decide why you want to make the content, what content you want to make, what you want to make it about, and start making it.
And I know that we're talking about young people, but is there a certain age that numbers do matter, would you say, Vik, or no? Just forget it. Doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter how long you've been in this business. Just focus on the content, the why, and the intention, and just ignore those numbers.
So I'm a big believer that the numbers don't matter. They have some level of kind of, well, this one got very little, and when I say numbers, I'm thinking about engagement. I'm not looking at likes or follows. I'm thinking about the comments. What's the sentiment in the comments? What are people saying? Are they giving you good feedback? Are they is it just nonsense? Whatever it might be, what is that engagement and how are you engaging back with them? And then how does that feed what you do and what you believe in and how you make content? So at any age, no, the numbers don't really matter as such. I think what's really, really important is that you just continue to develop what you believe in and the kind of content that you make, and you just keep going. It will build and build and build, and then you'll eventually figure it out.
Incredible. I like this. I really like this. It's really challenging and being a critical reflector after everything you do. Did it align with why I'm doing it? Was my intention pure? And am I really putting out the content that sets that intention? Thank you so much.
And
Raj?
sorry, and also a value, yeah?
Sorry?
Also a value. The content's got to be a value.
A value. A value to who? To your audience or to yourself?
To yourself, to your audience, to the reason why you're doing it. It's just got to be valuable.
Here's my top 3 things for a young person to think about. Firstly, experimentation. Whether you're young and starting on your personal branding journey, or you're later in life or midway through life, you have to understand that no matter what, it's a rule of the universe that the first 6 to 12 months are going to be awkward and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. So you have to experiment, and you have to play a game whereby essentially you're kind of like kissing a lot of different frogs to kind of find your prince, as it were. Now, what's required for experimentation? You've got to be very liberal in your approach to making content. You've also got to forgive yourself if things don't go the way that you thought they'd go when you started making that content. Point number 2, self-awareness. You've got to understand, is the content making you happy, regardless of the results it's bringing you, regardless of how it's lining your pockets with money or bringing you attention? Is it really making you happy? And is the intent behind it a really good intent, an honest intent? Number 3, the long game. Don't assume that anything's going to happen for the first 6 months to 5 years. Then once you understand that, and you know that there is going to be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, based on the first 2 points that I taught you, as long as you're prepared to keep adjusting and keep realigning it with what it is that makes you happy, eventually you'll get there, because it's not one destination. The destination itself is a compound of the decisions that you made to get there. So I don't want to be very practical, because sometimes I can get into like philosophical territory. That means this: want to start a podcast? Start one. Quit after 7 episodes? No problem. Want to become a graphic designer? Cool. Try that. Not working out too well? Go to TikTok. TikTok algorithm not working for you? Go to Instagram. Instagram working pretty well, delivering amazing results for you for 7 years. All of a sudden something happens to Instagram. It goes down overnight and you're on the next thing. Move on to that. I've seen platforms come and go, creators come and go, trends and themes come and go on the internet, memes come and go. Entrepreneurship was hot until it started making people kill themselves because they couldn't deal with the stress. Trends, everything comes and goes. As long as you're in it for the long game, you're not really bothered. You just adjust. And this is as valid for a 17-year-old watching this stream right now as it is for a 27-year-old or a 57-year-old. It doesn't matter. As sure as night follows day, you're not going to be good. Think about when you cook. The first time you cook your favorite dish, even though you might be an expert at it right now, you might have done it 87 times. The second time it didn't taste as good. It's a process. That would be my advice.
Thank you so much. This was a really insightful conversation for me. I hope that anyone watching this has really digested this information, this wisdom from both Raj and Vik. And that brings us to the end of an incredible conversation. Today we spoke with Raj and Vik, who are both coming to us from Creative Media Agency. It was such a pleasure. We learned all about personal branding.
Creative Content Agency.
I said that, didn't I?
You called it Creative Media Agency, but listen, we're prepared to change.
We're prepared to adjust.
Yeah.
No, we need to get it right. As we're talking about branding, right? I need to get it right. Thank you so much. And I am so excited to have had this conversation. We started with the typical personal branding and what is it? And then we seem to get into a very philosophical, but a very well-needed conversation to have for anybody from as young as our budding entrepreneurs at the age of 12 all the way through to our lived for life entrepreneurs and branders at whatever age you are. We'll see you all again at our next Desk Careers Project 13.5 at Dubai English Speaking College. Thanks for coming.